and you can find all of the information there. But she is going to run through our Mindfulness March sessions for us. So every Friday in March and one in April because of the bank holiday, we are going to run through some mindfulness sessions, which are really, really good. And each session will focus on different areas. So I will hand you over to Dr. Burrow, who will take you through everything and do our introduction to mindfulness. And after this session, everything again will be put on the larder. So if you need anything, you know where I am, and the information's also there. So I will pass you over now.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to see you all here. So this is one of my favourite talks to do. I love talking about mindfulness. I love getting people practicing it. So I'm really glad you can all be here to join me today. So I'm just going to share my screen with you and start the presentation off. Right, so as Rebecca said, I'm a clinical psychologist and I've worked for many years both in the charitable sector, in the NHS and in private practice. And I've been practicing mindfulness as an individual, my personal practice, for over 20 years now, and I can honestly say that it's made a huge difference to my life, to my well-being and to the way that I manage stress. So it's really exciting to be able to share something that you know, I found personally really useful in my life. I've also used mindfulness for many years with clients, so working with adults and children, teaching them mindfulness for anxiety, depression, general well-being, stress, and also for people living with chronic or terminal illness. And I can say out of one of the things in my toolbox, it's one of the best to really help people. So we'll have a chat today then about what mindfulness is. So essentially, when we talk about mindfulness, it's a way of being. So we're developing a way of being in ourselves, which focuses upon awareness in the present moment, acceptance of that present moment without trying to change anything, and it brings us patience and compassion. So Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's kind of the Western kind of king of mindfulness, really, who's been using mindfulness for many, many years since the 60s, talks about how this is a moment-to-moment awareness cultivated by purposely paying attention. So we are paying attention to the present moment on purpose. And when we meditate, when we do mindfulness meditation, what we're doing is we're practicing that being aware so that we can be more aware in our daily lives. So there's another quote there: in meditation, we consciously cultivate this state so it becomes much more likely to be available to us in daily life. So mindfulness is that state of being, and mindfulness meditation is a way of practicing it. So mindfulness is an ancient Eastern practice, comes from the Buddhist tradition. There's also elements of mindfulness in most religions, and the mindfulness that we're going to talk about today is a secular practice. So it's about learning to control our focus of attention. It's very, very simple to do, and you can do it anywhere, but it does require practice. So we will be paying attention in a particular way, as I said, on purpose. So we'll be paying attention in the moment, and we'll do it non-judgmentally. So as human beings, we're very, very intelligent. We have these wonderful brains that allow us to think and create, but it also means that we're quite judgmental at times. So we can be judgmental of ourselves, of other people, of situations, of feelings, of emotions, of thoughts. So what we're doing is we're practicing to be in this state of non-judgmental awareness. So being present in the moment without judging it, without trying to change it in any way. So mindfulness is simply being aware of what is happening right now, without wishing it was different, enjoying the pleasant without holding on to it when it changes, which it will, being with the unpleasant without fearing it will always be this way, which it won't. So as humans, when good things are happening, we get attached to that. So we want to keep it the same. We don't want it to change, but unfortunately it will. That's part of life, that the present moment's always changing. And when we are dealing with something unpleasant, what we want to do is get rid of it as quickly as possible. And sometimes we can't always do that. So mindfulness helps us to live a life without non-attachment. So we don't get caught up in wanting things to stay the same or pushing things away. So this frees up our energy, and this helps us to deal with difficult situations better. So mindfulness meditation, as I said, is a skill. It's a way of practicing mindfulness. So it helps us to develop those skills of paying attention, either externally to what's going on around us, or internally to our thoughts or our emotions or our physical feelings, connecting with our body. And with these skills, that means we can be more present in our lives. So that means we can be less on automatic pilot, just running around, not really thinking about things, automatically reacting to things. And it also means that we will be less focused on the past or the future. So often, if we spend a lot of time thinking about the past, how could I have done something differently? I should have said something differently. Then that can lead to feelings of depression, that can make us stuck in the past. And often when we're thinking too much about the future, that can lead to anxiety, lots of what ifs. And the place that we can really be the most effective is the present. So we can learn things from the past and we can plan a little bit for the future, but we're not in those periods of time. We're here in the present. So the more time we spend in the present, the more effective we can be. So we're going to talk a little bit now about when thinking causes problems. As I said, we're these wonderful creatures with this huge frontal cortex, you know, this huge brain that allows us to think and create and imagine. But sometimes that causes us problems. So here I've got a picture of, it's actually my old dog, Bertie, and a guy here called Sam. Now, my dog Bertie was a very chilled out dog. You could take him anywhere, you could do anything with him. And then he unfortunately got attacked by another dog, and he developed what was called fear aggression. So if he saw another dog, he became frightened, and he would kind of bark and growl because he was frightened. Now, when I asked Bertie, I got his lead out and said, Bertie, do you want to go for a walk? The first thing he would do is wag his tail. Yeah, I want to go for a walk. I want to go for a walk. So he wasn't sat there going, well, I'd like to go for a walk, but what if I see another dog? You know, what if I don't think I'll bother going for a walk today because there might be another dog and it might bite me. So he was very much in the present moment. So even though he'd had a traumatic experience, unless he actually saw another dog, he didn't worry about it. And when he came home, he wasn't going, oh, did you see that dog today? You know, we went on that walk. I saw 5 dogs I saw. It was awful. He just gets on with eating his bone or eating his tea or whatever. Whereas Sam here, he had a bit of a fallout with a colleague at work. So the next day he's on the train going to work. And what's he thinking about? Is he thinking about what's going through the window? Is he looking at the scenery? No, he's thinking about, what if I see Marjorie today? What if we have another fallout? So you can see that our brains often spend a lot of time thinking about things that we don't necessarily need to think about, and we can often create more anxiety or more worry for ourselves or more stress for ourselves by imagining scenarios or by going over scenarios in the past. Whereas animals, children, often are much more mindful. They're in the present moment. So if there's a difficult situation, yes, they'll deal with it, but they don't spend 4 hours thinking about it when they get home, or they don't spend 2 days worrying about what if it's going to happen. So mindfulness helps us to stay more present. It helps us to be less judgmental, so to enjoy things more, to appreciate things more, to really experience the present more. So we might experience going out and sitting in the garden. So I'm going to take my coffee out. It's a nice day. I'm going to have a coffee in the garden and just relax. So I get into the garden. Oh, this is lovely. Nice blue sky. I can hear the birds. Oh, look at the state of that grass. Look at it. Look at the state of that grass. Look at my vegetable patch there. So rather than enjoying the moment, I'm too busy making judgments about it. I'm too busy wanting to change it. Whereas we might have a young child in the garden and they don't notice these things. They're mindful, they're present in the moment. So they're finding ladybirds and picking up spiders and looking at the beauty of things. And so When we become judgmental of situations, it stops our true experience of them. So the less judgmental we are, the more we can truly experience something. So again, mindfulness helps with that. So as we said, it helps us to be more present in our lives, which means we're less on automatic pilot, which means we enjoy our lives, we experience our lives more. We're less focused on the past or future, which can help our mental well-being. It also means that we can notice unhelpful thoughts or difficult emotions without becoming overwhelmed with them. So when we use mindfulness to support mental health, it's really about becoming aware of difficult emotions or thoughts, but without getting so overwhelmed that you can't do anything about it. It helps us to distinguish between primary and secondary suffering. So primary suffering is the suffering that we all experience as part of life. And the secondary suffering is kind of the meaning that we attach to that. So this means that for different people, we might experience different difficult events in different ways. The same difficult event in different ways, because we have the primary suffering, which is the difficult event, and then we attach meaning to it. We create a story about it, which may make the event worse for us or better for us. And that's that secondary suffering. So this means that we can enhance our coping when things go wrong if we don't get caught up in that secondary suffering. As I said, it gives us more enjoyment in life, and it increases our self-awareness. We become more aware of our emotions, our thoughts, our actions, which gives us choice. So rather than automatically reacting to something and then going home and thinking, oh, I wish I'd just calmed down, or I wish I'd said that, it gives us more choice to be present in the moment so that we can take the course of action that we want to do, so that we're more aware of our emotions. So it allows us to take more control of our actions, and that we can then make choices based on our own values and motivations, rather than just an automatic response or a habit that you don't even notice driving our behaviour. So to go over the key points again, we're noticing thoughts or emotions, physical sensations, what's going on around us, but we're not judging it. We're moving away from being goal or achievement focused. So we don't have to be good at these exercises. We don't have to succeed in them. There's no ultimate goal in them. And what we're trying to cultivate is a thing called beginner's mind. So beginner's mind is that state of mind that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to get it wrong, it's okay not to be good at something. You know, you're cultivating a learning. And often when we try and learn a new skill, we struggle to be in beginner's mind because we find it frustrating, or we make a judgment about our performance on something. You know, we want to be good at something straight away. So we step into beginner's mind and go, do you know what? It's okay if we're not very good at this today. We're just going to learn slowly. And as we said, it's staying focused on the here and now, not getting pulled into the past or present where we have no control. So there's been lots and lots of research done on mindfulness over the years, and it's shown that it can improve our peace of mind, it enhances our general well-being, reduces stress, worry, anxiety, helps with depression. It can improve our focus and creativity, and it's really good for helping us to cope with chronic pain or illness. So we're all currently living in a difficult situation that we can't change at the moment with a global pandemic. And mindfulness, again, is a useful tool to cope with that. So when we're stuck with a situation that we can't change, that's emotionally draining, stressful, difficult for us, which many times in life we are, it helps us to accept the situation. And as I said, I've used mindfulness in my clinical practice for a long, long time with people really dealing with difficult life events, and it can really help people to manage those much, much better. So it stops us judging ourselves as well as other people in the situation, and we don't get caught up in trying to change or avoid unpleasant experiences when we have no control over them. So we're not wasting that energy, we're not tearing ourselves up emotionally about something we can't change. And it helps us to accept our emotional reactions that are maybe normal to the situation but might feel unpleasant. So that this isn't a passive acceptance or resignation. This is a very active way of being, but it's about, I guess, choosing our battles. You know, what's most helpful for me to put my energy into given this situation? Is it about, you know, beating my head against a brick wall about trying to change something I can't? Or is it about mindfully accepting the emotions that I'm feeling without trying to get rid of them or change it in any way? So we developed this non-judgmental observation of our reaction to unpleasant experiences, which has been shown in research to be key in the way that we cope with difficult situations. So as we said, it helps us distinguish between that primary suffering, the event itself or unpleasant situations, and our reaction, that secondary suffering. So we might not be able to change the primary event, but if we can reduce the secondary suffering, it's not going to be as bad for us. So by accepting our reactions, we reduce this secondary suffering. So that's why mindfulness is helpful in these situations when we can't change things. So John Kabat-Zinn has a lovely saying, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So rather than being knocked off our feet by waves of unpleasant emotions or a difficult event, we can begin to learn to surf. So we can begin to manage and cope with the waves differently. So what's important to know about mindfulness? So just before we go into some practice here, and we'll have a go at some mindfulness, what do we need to know about it? So it isn't relaxation. We're not necessarily doing this to feel more relaxed. Now, often people do feel more relaxed when they do a mindfulness practice, but it's not necessarily going to relax you. So we might actually bring up some uncomfortable thoughts or sensations, but with mindfulness, we learn to deal with these. We learn to observe these without getting caught up in them. You won't be able to do it perfectly. So I learned mindfulness originally with some Buddhist monks. Now you've all got an image of me in Tibet, haven't you, on top of a mountain practicing mindfulness. That's the image that I have as well. In fact, it was a little house in Birmingham in England. But they were Buddhist monks. But what they used to practice mindfulness all the time. And what they would say is that they would still think about what they were going to have for the tea now and again, or whether they'd pay the gas bill. So you're not going to be able to do it perfectly. Your mind's going to wander. And that's okay. That's that beginner's mind. So it is helpful to practice it daily. It's much better to do 5 minutes daily practice than kind of 40 minutes once a week. So little and often is great. You may need to practice it a little bit differently if you've experienced a trauma and you're still having a traumatic response to that, or if you have post-traumatic stress disorder. And we can practice trauma-sensitive mindfulness, but if this applies to you, I'd suggest finding a mindfulness practitioner or a psychologist or psychotherapist who practices mindfulness and helps you to teach you how to do that in a trauma-sensitive way. So when we practice today, if there anyone who is aware that they have PTSD or a trauma response, you might want to just listen to what we're doing without engaging in it, or you might want to try engaging but keep your eyes open rather than close your eyes. So we can dip in and out of mindfulness if we've experienced a trauma. And as we said, your mind will wander off. So the Zen Buddhists talk about our untrained mind being like an untrained puppy. So when we get our puppy from a rescue centre, obviously, not a breeder, when we get our puppy and we bring our puppy home and we sit our puppy down and we say, sit or lie down or come, what does the puppy do? Feel free to unmute yourselves or type into chat. Oh, you're all very quiet.
Whatever it feels like doing.
Exactly, and I see you've got one behind you, Catherine.
Yes, two.
Perfect. So yeah, it doesn't do any of those things, does it? Because it's not trained. We haven't taught it how to sit or how to lie down or whatever. So we have to put the patience and effort and the gentleness into teaching that puppy how to do these things. And our mind is the same, that when we ask our mind to sit, when we ask our mind to focus, it wanders off somewhere. So have a lock the door, you know, what am I doing for the kids' tea? Whatever it is, it's wandering off. And what we do is we just gently very gently guide the mind back and bring it back to what we're focusing on. And just like we would be gentle with our puppy and we would reward our puppy, it's the same with our mind. We don't beat ourselves up for wandering off. We just imagine gently, as if you were taking a child by the hand and just gently guiding the mind back to what we're focusing on. So again, developing that compassion for ourselves at the same time. So we're going to have a go now at doing some of this. So we're going to do a 3-minute breathing space, which takes 3 minutes. So what I'm going to invite you to do is, if you're happy to be on screen, it'd be great to be able to see you. So I'm just going to stop screen sharing for a moment. Okay, so I can see everybody. If you don't feel comfortable being on screen, that's absolutely fine. But what I'd invite you to do is, if you want to take part in this, then and you feel comfortable closing your eyes, I'll ask you to close your eyes. If you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, that's absolutely fine, but just fix your eyes on a point in front of you, either on the floor or on the wall, somewhere where your mind isn't going to be too busy. And as I say, if you don't want to take part and you just want to listen to what we're doing, that's equally also fine. So if you just want to get yourselves into a comfortable position, and just relax into the chair there. And just invite your body to let go of any tension it's holding at the moment. So just feeling fully supported by the chair and by the ground beneath you. And you're not trying to force your body to let go of any tension, but just give it that invitation to let go of any tension it doesn't need right now. And if, as you settle into your body, you notice you want to move to feel a little bit more comfortable, just move in a way that makes you more comfortable right now. So we're going to leave behind the conversations of the day. And we're just going to settle into the present moment. So just noticing right now, what is my experience? So in my thoughts, in feelings, emotions, in body sensations. Just acknowledging and registering what we're feeling right now, without trying to change it, even if it's unwanted or unwelcome. So we're not creating anything, just noticing how we are, what we're experiencing right now. And now we're just going to bring our awareness to rest on one thing, our breath. So gently redirecting our full attention to the breath, to each in-breath, to each out-breath, the way they follow each other, without trying to change the breath in any way. It doesn't matter how you're breathing. You might like to say to yourself, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, just to keep your attention focused on the breath. You might notice where your breath is in the body, your chest or abdomen as it rises and falls, or your nose and mouth where the breath enters and leaves the body. And then expanding your awareness again to include the whole of your body. So imagine you're breathing with the whole of your body. including your posture, including your facial expression. So just sit in for a few moments, noticing all the sensations in your body and your breath. And just expanding your awareness outside your body now to notice what you can hear around you in the room. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes. Look around the room, refamiliarize yourself with where you are. And when you're ready, just bring your attention back to the screen. Okay, so how did people find that? Is anyone willing to talk about what that experience was like for them? Or do you have any questions about that experience? So chilled out and relaxed, fantastic.
It's a lot harder not to think about anything else than I think I necessarily realised.
Yeah, very much so. So our mind kind of goes all over the place, doesn't it? And the first part of that practice, that's fine. You know, you can just notice where your mind's going. But when we narrow down to the breath or the breath in the body, we notice our mind's going everywhere.
I think about things I shouldn't be thinking about.
Okay.
Like, you know, trying to get those thoughts out of my mind, and then I'm focusing on those thoughts, and it's hard for me to sort of put them away.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite you not to make a judgment on the fact that you're thinking about those things. So it's okay. You're going to think about things. So we don't need to judge that, but we'll just practice bringing the mind back. And the next practice that I'm going to do with you, mindfulness of the breath, is a really good way of doing that, because we're noticing when the mind has wandered off, and then we gently guide it back again. So the whole idea of the practice really is the bringing back of the mind. So it is going to wander off. It is going to be that untrained puppy. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so just check chat. I forget about chat. Yeah, so often we become very noticeable. We become very aware of the sensations that we feel in our bodies. So for most of us, we don't notice our bodies very often. You know, we often only notice our bodies when they're really tired or when they're in pain. You know, for most of us, particularly if we're working in offices or we're not doing particularly physical jobs or physical hobbies, we kind of walk around almost as if we're cut off from here. So when we begin to practice mindfulness and we begin to reconnect with our bodies, we might notice quite intense sensations because we just haven't tapped into our bodies before. So yeah, palpitations in hands, we might notice that, or we might suddenly realize that our heart's beating really fast, and then because we're focusing on it, we might feel a bit anxious, so then it might be even faster, and that's okay. You know, we're just getting in touch with these sensations, we're just exploring them gently. Right, so we're going to move on now to another mindfulness practice. So I'm just going to stop share again. So we're going to try mindfulness of the breath now. So we're going to do this for a little bit longer. So you will find that your minds are wandering off to other things. Again, not a problem. So just get yourselves back into that comfortable position again. And if you're happy to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you'd rather keep your eyes open, that's fine, but just fix them on a spot in front of you where you're not going to be too distracted. And again, just invite your body to let go of any tension. So you don't need to force that. You're just giving your body an invitation to let go of any tension that it doesn't need right now. And just allow yourself to be completely supported by the chair, completely supported by the ground beneath you. And just become aware of where you notice your breathing, where you notice the breath in your body. So it might be with the rise and fall of your chest or abdomen. You might want to just put a hand on your tummy or on your chest if that helps you to focus on the breath. Or you might notice the breath at the nose or mouth as it enters and leaves the body. But just become aware of your breathing without trying to change it in any way, without judging it in any way. And just notice your breathing. Notice how your chest and abdomen moves as you breathe in and out. If you find your mind wandering off to other things, just gently guide your mind back to the breath each time, without judgment. Remembering that your mind will wander, but we're going to use the breath as an anchor to the present. So just noticing how the air moves through your mouth or through your nostrils as you breathe in and out. Maybe now just notice your breathing style. Remembering you're not trying to change it, but notice whether you are breathing fast or slow, deep or shallow. Again, without making a judgment, without trying to change, just noticing the breath. And if you're struggling to keep your mind on the breath, you can help yourself by counting silently in your head. So with each in and out breath, in, out, 1, in, out, 2, and continue counting each breath until you get to 10. And when you reach 10, just bring the count back to 1 again. And if you notice your mind wanders, just bring it gently back to the breath and begin the count again at 1. So the goal is not to get to 10. The goal is to notice when your mind's wandered and to bring your mind back to the breath. So the count is just a guide, a tool to help us focus. So for the next few moments, just in silence, we're just going to focus on the breath. And now just noticing how the breath moves through your body. Noticing where you can feel the breath in your body. Noticing as you breathe in and out whether you can feel the breath move through your rib cage, the back of your body, the front of your body. And then expand your awareness to the rest of your body. Maybe move a little in your seat, wiggle your fingers and toes just to reconnect with the rest of the body. And expanding your awareness outside the body now to the sounds that you can hear around you, in the room, outside of the room, other people in the building, or noises outside. And when you're ready, just open your eyes slowly, have a look around where you are. Reconnect with the room there. And when you're ready, just reconnect with the screen, reconnect with the group of us here. All right, is everybody back? Welcome back there. No one fell asleep. So any questions or comments about that practice?
I found that actually by concentrating on my breathing, I was thinking, have I actually changed my breathing because I'm concentrating on it rather than just concentrating on the breathing, if you know what I mean.
So you were trying to change your breathing, Graham, when you were concentrating on it?
I wasn't trying to change it, but I was conscious that maybe I wasn't breathing as I normally would because I was concentrating.
Yeah, and that's very common when we pay any attention to our body, to a specific part, that we suddenly begin to then think about, I'm doing it differently. So it's a really common sensation to kind of feel that I'm breathing differently. So often people describe when they're paying attention to their breathing that they might end up holding their breath more, or they might feel that they're breathing more heavily. So that's really common, and the more we practice it, the less we have of that. You know, we're more able just to focus on our breath. Some days we'll find it's more difficult than others. So you know, some days we can just really stay focused on our breath, not get caught up in the thoughts associated with it. Other days we might find that we become more conscious of our bodies and our breathing, or other days we might be drifting off everywhere. But thanks, Graham, for that comment. I've got some stuff coming through the chat here. So became more aware of uncomfortable sensations. Yeah. And again, that sense of I can't breathe properly, you know, it's quite common that. Was easily more comfortable the second time, counting breath really helped. So yeah, I think we said about we may become aware of uncomfortable sensations. You know, if we're people who suffer with chronic pain, again, often we dissociate from our body. We try not to feel the pain. But by working through mindfulness, we can manage those uncomfortable sensations better, so that we don't get caught up in them, but we may initially feel them more when we start. Yeah. And yeah, the counting the breaths can be a really helpful way of staying focused on the breath. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we're just going to move on then. So how can we practice mindfulness in our everyday activities? So we don't have to just do meditation to become mindful. We can bring awareness to the present moment and not bring judgment to the present moment in everything that we do. So in our automatic routines, rather than just going through the day on automatic pilot, we can just begin to slow down and take more notice. So for example, when we're brushing the teeth in the morning or taking a shower or waiting the kettle to boil, we can practice mindfulness, and we'll go through some more of these exercises in the series of mindfulness sessions we'll be doing for the next 4 weeks. But things like brushing our teeth, so really noticing, what does it feel like to have a toothbrush in my hand? What does it feel like as I squeeze the toothpaste tube? So what does the metal of the tube feel like? How much pressure am I putting on that? When I first squeeze the toothpaste, you know, what's the smell I get as the toothpaste comes out? As I move it to my mouth, do I smell that more? How does it feel when I first put the toothbrush in my mouth? So all of these things, like just really slowing things down. So begin to regularly take notice on how we're feeling or how we're acting. So again, rather than rushing around in automatic pilot, just having little regular check-ins with ourselves. You know, how am I feeling today? What emotions am I having? What am I doing? How am I sitting? And again, we'll have a look at some kind of mindfulness of movement and posture in some of the next sessions. So go for a walk and actively notice what's around you. So I think one of the advantages of lockdown for many people is that they feel that they've been able to slow down. Not everybody, but for some people, they feel like they've been able to slow down a little bit and maybe get out into nature a bit more. So consciously go for a walk and notice, what are the colours of the leaves? How does the light reflect on the water when I walk past a pond? You know, what can I hear around me? What are all the colours of the cars that are passing me? Sit and listen to noises in nature. So that's a really nice way to engage in mindfulness. So listen to the birds singing, the wind in the trees. For most of us, wherever we live, there'll be some traffic noises as well, maybe. But that's also, we can be mindful of every noise, you know, not just the pleasant ones. And take time just to stop and just to be. So often we're always busy, we're always doing, we're never just being. So can you just take a few moments in your day just to be? Take a different route on your journey to and from work. Obviously, not everybody's going to and from work at the moment, but see if you've got a regular journey that you do, whether it's to the shops, can you take a different route? Or can you really become aware of what you see? So often one of the times when we're most mindless is when we're driving familiar routes, when we're doing familiar activities. And I think most of us will have experienced at least one time in our lives when we've driven somewhere and went, how did I even get here? Which is a little bit scary given how much attention we need on the roads. So just notice what you see in front of you when you're driving along. Pay attention to our senses. So again, another practice, and we'll do some of these in the weeks coming, is just to stop and notice, what do I hear? What do I see? What can I smell? What am I noticing from my sense of touch? So what does the chair feel like underneath my body? What do my clothes feel like against my skin? And then what do I taste? So really, mindfulness can be practiced anywhere, doing anything. So we're going to finish off with another exercise today, which is mindfulness of eating. So I'm hoping that you all got a message to have a little bit of food with you. Anybody get that message? I see somebody's got something. Have thumbs up if everybody's got food of some description with you. Fantastic. If you haven't got food with you and you've got food very close by, quickly run and get some food. Okay. So we'll give you a few minutes just to come back with a goodie to eat. Right, is everyone good to go? Brilliant. So it looks like everybody's back now. So take whatever it is you have in front of you. Now, often this is called the raisin exercise because often when we teach mindfulness to people, we give them all a raisin to do this with. I like you to have your own choice about what you're going to eat. So, although to be fair, I normally do it with chocolate. So get whatever it is that you're going to eat in front of you, and we're just going to focus on this. And I want you to I'm going to invite you rather than I invite you to focus on this piece of food as if you're an alien from another planet, as if you have never seen this before. So just have a look at your food now, as if you've never seen that before. So if it's in a wrapper, just have a look at that wrapper and then maybe unwrap it. And just really explore it with your eyes. So turn it round in your fingers. Notice the colour of it. Notice how you can see the texture. Notice how the light falls on it. Notice any folds or dips or dents. And if you notice that you're having some thoughts about this, just gently bring yourself back to just looking at your object. So you might be having some thoughts around, this is a bit weird. What are we doing? I'm a bit bored now. Just bring yourself back to that object. Really explore it with your eyes. And then begin to explore it with your fingers. What does it feel like? If it's chocolate, is it melting on your fingers? Is it a bit squishy? Is it hard? Just notice how it feels, holding it in your hand. And then just bring it up to just in front of your nose and just smell it. What's that smell? Just really, as if you'd smelt this thing for the first time, what does it smell like? Does that smell bring up any memories? Does it bring up any other thoughts? And just bring yourself back to what it smells like. And then begin to slowly eat it. So just taking a little bite and noticing, what does it taste like? So really slowing down that chewing process. What does it feel like to have this piece of food in your mouth? Is it crunchy? Is it getting stuck in your teeth? Is it melting in your mouth? Notice where you taste it in your tongue. Is it sharp or sweet? What does it feel like when you chew? What does your mouth feel like as you're chewing this? So just continue to eat it in that mindful process. Just noticing as you swallow. Noticing as you take another bite, how easily does your teeth go into it? Or if you're snapping it or pulling it apart with your fingers, how easily does it come apart before you put it in your mouth? Does the second mouthful taste the same as the first? And then just finishing the mouthful that you've got now without taking another one. And just noticing, is there an aftertaste? Is there anything still there in your mouth? A bit stuck in your teeth or under your tongue? Notice whether you have a sense of it moving into your stomach. Noticing any emotions that have come up. Self-consciousness or enjoyment or satisfaction. Okay, so how did you guys find that? What was that like for you? Has anyone ever eaten like that before?
Especially not banana.
So a bit odd, yeah. Just wanted to eat it, yeah. So often we're just like, just give me the food. I don't want to wait. Looking forward to Greg's. Yeah, made my tummy rumble. So often, just as we start looking at the food, we may start the salivary process. So we can really start wanting it even more because we're delaying that gratification of just stuffing it in our mouths. An apple looks, feels and smells inedible like plastic. Ooh. Maybe try and, I think they put wax on apples, don't they? Maybe wash it off in hot water first. Live to enjoy food, so it's not new experience, but not done as often as should. Yeah, so I think that's it. If we eat something we really, really like, we might be more mindful. You know, if we get a big chocolate cake, we might eat it a little bit slower. But it's a really good practice to do. It really helps us to enjoy our food, although pears smell weird. I've got some pears in my fruit bowl. I'm gonna go sniff one after this and see whether I agree with you or not. Get some strange looks at tea time. Yeah, it might make meals a lot longer. It's actually a really good thing to do if you eat more than you want to be eating. So if you're trying to reduce what you're eating, or if you eat mindlessly, so I can quite easily eat 5 plates of something before I realize that I'm so stuffed. But it slows us down, so it helps us to be more mindful. And because we're slowed down, we're more mindful of what we're eating, we become satisfied much quicker. So we notice when we're full rather than continue to eat when we're not full. So it's a really good practice to do if you're trying to lose weight at all, or you're trying to reduce what you're eating. And it's just a good practice just to enjoy your food a bit more, to really appreciate that. And an everyday practice, you know, we often rush our food, we often eat at work, you know, we're kind of stuffing things in as quickly as possible because we're starving. So it just helps us to reconnect with our bodies and look after ourselves a little bit better as well. So well done all of you for doing that. I know it's a little bit odd. Any other questions or comments on that particular exercise? Fantastic. Right, so we're just gonna finish off then. So there's some resources there, and Rebecca or Shannon will send you these slides afterwards, and I've also got a few handouts that you can have on the practices that we've been doing, but there's some books there that are really great. There's also some websites and apps that are really good introductions to mindfulness and meditation. So have a look at some YouTube channels there. Think with any type of meditation, if you're practicing mindfulness, find the things that work for you. So find the practitioners and the way that teach that work for you, because you're more likely to do it then. And there's so many resources out there these days that there'll be something there for everyone. and we'll be doing some more mindfulness exercises in the coming weeks. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Any questions before we end today about anything in the presentation?
Not from me.
No, thank you. Brilliant. I slept for about 5 minutes or more.
Oh, I didn't hear any of that. Sorry.
When we were relaxing, I probably did snooze for at least 4 minutes. So it was really nice.
Does anybody already practice mindfulness? Becca, great. Yeah, I see a few nods, brilliant. So you'll be leading it next week then?
I am the worst for my mind wandering, and today I have Thor in the background, so that was interesting, trying to stay concentrated with a 5-year-old watching Thor.
And I think that actually what we normally start practicing mindfulness in a really quiet space, but actually it's much better if we can begin our practice in the real world, because for most of us, we've got noisy relatives in the house with us of some description, or we've got some animal that's going to jump on us when we're trying to meditate, or we live next door to a motorway or an airport. So, you know, people go on these beautiful mindfulness retreats, which are great, but in our daily lives, they're not like that. So being able to practice real life mindfulness is really helpful, that, you know, we can practice it anywhere, even if we're sat next to a busy road, we can still do it. And mindfulness of the breath's brilliant for that, because we always take our breath with us wherever we go.